In the pre-dawn hours of this morning, China has just firmly drawn a line in the sand towards Donald Trump and his tariff war. And what China is doing is they are aligning metaphorically their troops, known as other countries, to stand with them. I wonder what those other countries might do. Stand with China or with the U.S.? And in this breaking story I'm going to show you in a few seconds, China is not playing around, and Donald Trump's starting to find out why the first time he tried this back in his first term, it didn't work. I'm going to show you that story in just a few seconds. Take a quick listen to this to grasp what he still has not learned. You know, the man who's filed 6 bankruptcies. Take a quick listen.
Over the last 40 years, China's economic growth has been eclipsing that of the United States, growing at an average rate 4 times faster. China dominates global supply chains, and it holds nearly $1 trillion of U.S. debt.
China is a peer country with the United States today. If we use purchasing power parity, its economy is larger than the U.S. economy, and if anyone believes that they can stop China's steady rise as an economy, it's probably indulging in fantasy.
One thing I have to do is economically take on China, because China has been ripping us off for many years. Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one, so I'm taking on China.
In fact, Donald Trump's predecessors have employed measures to restrict China trade practices.
They're taking our business, they're taking our jobs, they're making our product.
But in 2016, Trump made China a major campaign issue.
We can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing. It's the greatest theft in the history of the world.
Days before Trump's inauguration in 2017, Xi wanted to make sure the incoming president knew where he stood on trade. He sent a warning from his podium at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
搞保护主义，如同把自己关入黑屋子，看似躲过了风吹雨打，但也隔绝了阳光和空气。打贸易战的结果，只能是两败俱伤。
President Trump's most important foreign meeting yet, greeting the leader of the country he's previously called our enemy.
President Trump understood that we had failed to compete with China. One of the lines that President Trump would use with Xi Jinping periodically is he would say, I don't blame you, I blame us.
Oh, that's a wonderfully cute concept of it's not your fault, it's ours. That's kind of like taking a rescue dog that's angry because it was beaten by the previous owner and saying to the dog, look, I know you know it's not my fault, but I'm going to punch you in the face anyway. Like, you have to address something that is right now, not what you wish it was in the past when somebody else was in charge. You're in charge, Donald. And in this breaking story, oh my, this is what China just did.
China has issued a strong warning to its trading partners, urging them not to join U.S. efforts to isolate Beijing in exchange for tariff exemptions. The statement follows reports that the Trump administration is offering reduced trade barriers to countries that limit economic ties with China. Beijing called the strategy coercive and vowed reciprocal countermeasures if its interests are undermined. Tariffs on Chinese goods were recently raised to 145%, sharply escalating the trade war.
Major breaking story. China vows retaliation against countries that follow U.S. calls to isolate Beijing. China on Monday warned it will retaliate against countries that cooperate with the U.S. in ways that compromise Beijing's interests as the trade war between the world's 2 largest economies threatens to embroil other nations. China's warning comes as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is reportedly planning to use tariff negotiations to pressure U.S. partners to limit their dealings with China. Trump this month paused major tariff increases on other countries for 90 days while hiking duties further on goods from China to 145%. In quotes, China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interest. If this happens, China will not accept it and will resolutely take reciprocal countermeasures, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce said according to a CNBC translation. The ministry cautioned about the risk to all countries once international trade returns to law of the jungle. The statement also sought to cast China as willing to work with all parties and, in quotes, defend international fairness and justice, while describing the U.S. actions as abusing tariffs and unilateral bullying. Chinese President Xi Jinping last week visited Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia in his first overseas trip of 2025. In official Chinese readouts of his meetings with the three countries' leaders, Xi called for joint efforts to oppose tariffs and unilateral bullying. Since Trump imposed tariffs on China during his first term, the Asian country has increased its trade with Southeast Asia, now China's largest trading partner, on a regional basis. The U.S. remains China's largest trading partner on a single country basis. In quotes, for African countries or every country, it should be everyone cooperating together responding to the U.S. Justin Yifu Lin, Dean of the Institute of New Structural Economics at Peking University, told reporters on Monday. That's according to a CNBC translation of his Mandarin language response to a question from a reporter from Mali about solutions to the trade war. While Lin did not rule out the possibility of full decoupling between the U.S. and China, he said he expected the two countries would likely remain linked because of U.S. consumer and business reliance on China. Last week, China's Ministry of Commerce replaced its top international trade negotiator with Li Qiangang, who also became a vice minister and has been the country's ambassador to the World Trade Organization. China has filed a lawsuit against the U.S. with the WTO over Trump's latest tariff increases. And if by chance you wonder to yourself why it seems Trump is oblivious to the realities of what this is going to do to not only the American economy, but the American people, where do you think so many of these low-cost goods come from? China. Just ask MAGA and all of their paraphernalia that they have been selling for the last 10 years. All made in China. Well, they go to places like Walmart. That's how the Walton family became the billionaires that they are. And who buys those goods? Who shops there? The people with the lowest amount of income. This isn't going to affect Trump's pals. And in terms of all the insider trading that goes on within the White House and up on Capitol Hill, it's not going to affect those people. This is going to hurt the poorest people in this country, while Trump is sitting around stroking himself at how proud he is of, I'm the chosen one, I took on China. Man, there are a lot of ways to go about winning fights. There are a lot of ways to strategize, to use W's phrase of doing it, to strategize how you approach an enemy and how you win. But in this global economy, we're not isolationists. And Trump is treating us in this situation like it's 1915. And it's not. It's 2025. It has to be a cut here, a trim there, a thing there. You cannot just go in like a bull in a china shop, ha ha, pardon the pun, and take on China in the way he's doing it. This is going to get rough. So you guys stay frosty.